What's up? What's up? Wait for hopefully some more people to get in here. My first official live video, so this is kind of a test to see how it goes. What's up, Kevin? What's up, Rick? What's up, Captain Frosty? I did like the movie. I'll say that before we get into actual spoilers and discussion. I did like the movie. Can everybody hear me? Like I said, this is my first live, so making sure that the microphone is working. Perfect. Thank you, Rick. Hopefully everybody in here has seen it, because we are definitely going to talk about spoilers. We're not going to hold anything back. There we go. That's a little better. Make sure you can see some of the masks back there. What's up, Caleb? I'm excited to hear what everybody else thought too. It's definitely I don't want to say like mixed. I think overall people enjoyed it, but I'm seeing a lot of the same complaints from people. So we'll see if any of those minor nitpicks match up with, some of the issues I had. I honestly didn't have that many issues, to be honest. Rick W. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite sequels too. I need to see it a few more times before I can make an actual uh, ranking after seeing this one, but it's definitely up there for sure. It's definitely one of, if not close to, the best sequel in the franchise, and I have many reasons for thinking that. Kevin, I like your ranking there. That's a really good ranking, actually. Probably controversial, but not as controversial as some of the other rankings I've seen. I saw a couple. I was blown away by some people's rankings that I've seen recently. I don't want to point out certain names because some of the people that have released their rankings have kind of like gotten a little angry about backlash that they've got, which, it is what it is. Like, a ranking's a ranking. It's your opinion at the end of the day. If you're saying, hey, these are my favorite, or I think these are the best in order. But I've seen a lot of people recently post rankings where they put like the original Scream like towards the bottom. And again, if that's your opinion, that's your opinion. But man, I feel like if you're going to put that out there in the public, that you think the original Scream is like fourth or fifth or sixth, then you gotta expect some backlash from that for sure. So you gotta be prepared for it. But yeah, I've seen some rankings lately that just blew my mind. I saw a ranking the other day, somebody that has a Scream podcast, and they put 3 as number 1, the best movie, and they put Scream 1 in like third or fourth place. I was like, holy cow, man! I love Scream 3, but holy cow, like that's that's bold. And again, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. But don't get butthurt when people are like, "You're crazy putting Scream 1 that low and Scream 3 that high." What's up, Jigsaw JP? John Del Rey. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, no, I totally get what you mean. That, just because something's at the bottom doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It's just like your least favorite, or I guess my thing with rankings is you kind of got to say like what your ranking is. Are you ranking the films in your opinion from best to worst, or are you ranking them favorite to least favorite? That's completely different. And I think that goes with anything, any movie list. When people are like, or you just ask somebody like, what's your favorite movie? It's like, okay, well, your favorite movie could really be anything. It could be anything. It could be Blair Witch 2. That could be your favorite movie. But favorite doesn't mean best. Best doesn't always mean favorite either. I like seeing everybody's rankings here. Iggy, I like your ranking for sure. That's kind of where I'm at right now as far as the first three in the ranking go. I'm kind of like 6 and 5. I think 6 is better than 5, but all right, guys. Well, we got quite a few people in here. Like I said, this is my first live. Something I've wanted to do for a while. I just never got around to doing it and never really found something, definitely worthwhile going live for. So I figured we'd try it out with talking Scream 6 spoilers. So again, if the title didn't give it away already, we are talking spoilers. So there's no holding back here. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, then you should not be in this chat. Okay, so let's talk about the movie. Let's just start with the opening scene. Let's talk about the opening scene. So my thoughts on the opening scene was, I got to tell you, I was honestly blown away. I think I told people afterwards, I was like, listen, the opening scene doesn't just break the rules, it just shatters them. I mean, completely shatters them. We've been talking about wanting a original, something different opening, which we kind of got with 5. We did, we had a single victim instead of 2, and we also had a opening scene victim that wasn't killed. They survived. So that in and of itself was different. But the formula was still there, girl at home alone gets the call, Ghostface attacks. It was still the same kind of setup. This one was like, what is happening? The moment that Ghostface removes his mask 5 minutes into the opening was insane. And it was almost like, and I didn't know what the opening was going to be. There's a lot of people that are probably like, oh, how much of it did you know? I knew less about this movie going in than I did 5 and certainly 4. So I had no clue what the opening scene was going to be. So I was taken back. I was really surprised by what happened in the opening. Kind of went through all these questions in my head like really fast. Like as soon as he removes the mask, I was like, okay, my brain really fast was like, what's happening? Something's happening. Something different's happening. What's going on? Is it a stab movie? Is it a prank? Is it a movie within a movie? Like, what's going on? Um, you know, and then when you start to realize what's happening, you're like, holy shit, they revealed a killer in the opening scene. Then you ask yourself, like, are we going to know, like, as the movie progresses, that this is one of the killers and maybe we don't know who the other one is? There was a lot of stuff going on that was just yeah, it was crazy. I think that the opening scene was very uncomfortable for me. I felt like I called it intrusive almost. Like you kind of felt like you shouldn't be seeing what you were seeing. Like the Scream 6, title logo should have splashed across the screen like almost immediately after he swipes down and the blood hits the mask. After he says, now I see something red," and then the blood hits the mask. Your brain's like, "Here it comes, Scream 6." And then it doesn't, and he's just standing there breathing, and then it like closes in, and you get that great close up of the mask where he's really looking at what he just did, and you can almost see like whoever's under the mask is like kind of pondering and thinking about it. And everything from there on just felt very intrusive and uncomfortable. Like I said, it just felt like, man, I don't think we should be watching what we're watching. Like we shouldn't be seeing this at all. To see him like take the mask off and take the costume off and put it in a book bag and walk away like nothing happened. And then you see Tara and he's talking, and we still don't have the opening title yet. It's like, what is going on? Like we shouldn't be seeing this. It was like the ending of Scream 4 after Jill believes that she's killed everybody, and we see her kind of staging the scene for her to make herself look like a victim. That whole time you're watching that, you're kind of like, wow, we've never seen something like this before. And you kind of feel like, I don't think we should be seeing this. This is insane. It was like that times like 100. Let me look at some of the comments here. Yeah, Samara Weaving screams were crazy. Taskin Lander Redux. My biggest complaint about this film is that no one important or surviving from the previous film died. Zero stakes in this one. I kind of agree with that. And I plan on discussing that here when we get to that point. Yeah, the most uncomfortable part for me was when he passed Tara. Yep, it was kind of like, wow, like we're really getting an inside look at like what these killers are like in the series, how they just fool everybody. Miami USMC Devil Dog Hunter. Can someone please tell me who the secret cameo was? So, kind of jumping ahead, but the secret cameo was Jack Quaid. It was supposed that was the secret cameo everyone was talking about was Richie. That he technically does appear in the film as in his film and his student, whatever his fan film that he made. And obviously to give that away, excuse me, getting over being sick if you can't tell. He to give that away at a time kind of would have gave it away that the killings had something to do with Richie. But yeah, that was who the secret cameo was. But yeah, okay, so let's go back to the opening was just like I said, it was mind-blowing in many ways. It was not expected at all. You never expect to see a ghost face reveal uh in the opening scene like that. And then to realize we're following the killer and we don't yet know, like, is this the movie? Like, do we know that are we going into this movie knowing who one of the killers are, but maybe not the other? Um, but then just to have it completely thrown back in your face, and now you realize that there's another ghost face that's not linked to this killer or these killers at all, and you very quickly realize, like, oh shit, the victims of the opening scene are Ghostface killers being killed by other Ghostface killers. Yeah, I thought that was extremely well planned, well thought out, very clever. Certainly, uh, probably the most different opening scene that we've had in the series since probably two. Um, I just say that because two was so vastly different of an opening than any of the other films. You know, Scream 2 is the only one that doesn't have like a phone call in the opening scene. Um, it's the only one in the series where there's a murder, like literally in public. Um, of course, you could argue now with six, Laura in the alley was kind of technically public, but not really, not in the way Scream 2 was. So I feel like Scream 2 was vastly different than the original opening. And then when you went back to Scream 3, it was kind of they went back to the classic opening of like the phone calls and Ghostface and um same with Scream 4, obviously, and 5. And then 6 again kind of did something similar to what Scream 2 did in the sense that they did something completely different. Um, that nobody was expecting. You know, I remember when Scream 2 first came out and people were complaining online, like, oh, he barely calls anybody. And, it's not Ghostface. It's Ghostface calls people and he guts them. And, that was like a complaint back in 97. Like, oh, yeah, there wasn't enough phone calls in the opening scene. He didn't call anybody. In hindsight now, obviously that's what one of the things that made the opening so great was it was so different. So I think definitely this one's on par with two as being the most different and original opening scene since Scream 2. I'm gonna check out some more of what you guys are saying. XV Ryan, you're welcome. Kirby Taskin says Kirby was cringy. Yeah, kind of jumping ahead here. I didn't think she was like bad, but you could definitely tell, unfortunately, that Hayden Panettiere had not acted in 4 years. It definitely showed. Like I said, I don't think she was like terrible necessarily, but you could definitely tell that she had not acted in many years. But I thought overall she did a good job. Um, so also talking about the opening scene, like I kind of wanted to get some of your guys' thoughts on this. So when you look back on these movies, as we all do, everybody talks about like, when there was only four movies, it was like, oh, there's been seven Ghostface killers, and when five came out, it's like, okay, now there's nine. So do do we now think that is there now 14 Ghostface killers? Are we counting Jason and Greg as official Ghostface killers? Again, when we look back at the series and we go down through, um, and we talk about these movies, when we talk about Scream 6, and we talk about like who the killers are, or we look at the series as a whole and talk about it, are we saying that Jason and Greg were Ghostface killers? So were there 5 killers total in this movie? I'm of the opinion that yes, we have to count them, and so therefore there were 5. And yeah, I would say that there's 14 confirmed Ghostface killers so far. The only reason I would count Greg, I see a lot of people saying they wouldn't count Greg. The only reason I would count Greg is because he was a part of it. It's almost like the people that say like, well, Richie didn't actually kill anybody; it was all Amber. They even say in this movie like, oh, your boyfriend, didn't do any of the killing at all, like, or your son, he was a pussy. Richie didn't kill anybody; he made his girlfriend do all the dirty work. Like, you know, does that mean we can't count Richie? Just saying theoretically that Richie didn't actually kill anybody. That's a whole other debate that we're not going to have here. But if Richie didn't kill anybody, but Amber did all the killing, does that mean that we can't count Richie? No, obviously we count Richie. So I guess that's why I count Greg too, because he may not have killed anybody that we know of, but he was definitely a part of it. So that's why I would count Greg in there as well. I'm just reading some of your guys' comments. Yeah, it seems like that's going to be the great debate. Do we count Greg or not? Like I said, I would count him personally, just because he was involved. But I understand the people that are like, can't count Greg. We never saw him actually in a costume or killing anybody. So I get that. Apollo Balboa, yo, did Bailey get all of the Ghostface masks and memorabilia for Richie when he was alive or after her death? Or after his death? I think it was when he was alive, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Bailey says that, I admit my son may have had an unhealthy obsession with these movies, but I definitely helped him out with that by helping build his collection. So clearly, while Richie was alive, his dad was helping him obtain these items, which I find interesting that Richie would go on his own Woodsboro Ghostface killing spree and not use some of the previous masks. But hey, Richie probably treated them like these are not to be touched. These are, these are special. This is history. How many stuntmen were Ghostface? I have no idea. If it's anything like the previous movies, probably too many to count. That's kind of funny, even more so recently, as a lot of people are getting the attention that they've deserved over the years. But like, and I have nothing against Dane Farwell, but for the longest time, everybody talked about Ghostface. It was like Dane's Ghostface. Dane was Ghostface in Scream 1. He's Ghostface in Dane did it. It was all about Dane. Really, Dane was Ghostface in Scream 1 very little. It was mostly in Scream 1, it was mostly Lee Waddell and Tony Caesar. Those were the two main stuntmen that portrayed Ghostface in Scream 1. Dane was Ghostface for very, very, very few scenes in the movie. He was the one that created the blood wipe with the knife. But yeah, he was Ghostface very, very, very little. He was just somebody that was like, hey, we need a stunt guy for a couple days. Our regular ones aren't available. so they got him, and he came in and did a couple scenes at the house. And then with Scream 2, again, same thing. There were many, many, many different ghost faces, and Dane was just one of them. He was Ghostface very little on Scream 2 as well. I believe Lee Waddell was Ghostface, and oh god, what's his name? I can't even think of his name. Chris Duran. There was so many. And then obviously Dane wasn't Ghostface in 3 at all. 3 was the first time where there was still multiple stuntmen that were behind Ghostface, but in Scream 3, that was the first one where there was like one guy that did almost all the work, and that was obviously Brian Avery. So yeah, Scream 3 was unique that it had like one guy for like 95% of the filming. Um, Scream 4 was kind of the opposite with Dane. It was kind of like reversed. It was Dane for most of it, but there were still other guys. But yeah, Scream 4 is really the only movie that it was Dane for the majority of the film. All the other ones, Dane was either not in it at all or he was Ghostface very little. Yeah, Rick W. Yep. Yeah. Dane was the primary Ghostface in 4. So he was Ghostface for about 90% of the film. And the other 10% was just, other people that were available when they needed them. Um, okay, so let's go back to Scream 6. So let's see. Let's talk about the bodega scene. What did everybody think of that? What do we think about the bodega scene? I thought it was awesome. Um, I kind of was like, when it was starting, I was like, oh shit, here we go. I'm gonna regret watching that trailer. And yeah, while the trailer did show a lot of it, um, the cutting and the editing was so much better uh in the actual film itself. I thought it was done so well. Um, very chilling and realistic to see a ghost face with a shotgun, and the methodical shooting and cocking of the gun, stalking them in that small space. Yeah, it was very well done, very suspenseful scene. XV Ryan, that was most definitely Detective Bailey. I agree, because number one, the way he's handling the shotgun, clearly somebody that's familiar with and trained with firearms. That's number one. Number two, that was definitely Billy's mask being worn in that scene. And as we know from the end of the film, Billy's mask is the mask that Bailey had on him in his jacket. So I believe that and again, could be proven wrong in future viewings where I'm, deciphering which aged mask is Billy's and which one's Mrs. Loomis's and which one's Stu's, whatever. But it's my belief that they were trying to kind of set up that, like, hey, anytime Ghostface in this movie is wearing Billy's mask, it's Detective Bailey. Rick W. He called Sam at 9:57 from the crime scene, and bodega scene happened 10:03. Yeah, again, have to do a rewatch. Several, obviously. Um, Apollo Balboa was Richie's mask ever used by his siblings? Well, the only time in the movie that one of the three ghost faces of Richie's family is wearing a white mask is the subway scene, which is Quinn. We know it's Quinn, obviously, because Ethan's with Mindy on the train. And also, Quinn says that she stabbed Mindy. Um, so, obviously, a white mask, that white, would have to be from 5, because even when they showed the Scream 4 mask, like in the evidence photo with Kirby, it was white, but it was yellowed. So I believe that Quinn's mask on the subway train, for whatever reason, was one of the masks from the Scream 5 murders, from the 2022 murders. I feel like I was talking to actually Douglas at Drown Point Productions earlier about the whole mask thing. We were kind of trying to figure out the amount of masks that there were versus what was left versus what was worn. It's kind of confusing. What we were able to figure out that we kind of are good with, like this is our theory now. I believe that there was one mask per killer, because there's 9 Ghostface mannequins, and I believe that there was a mask on every single one of those. So there was a mask to represent each killer. But it wasn't so much like with them leaving the mask behind the crime scene. They weren't trying to leave a mask for each killer as they were trying to leave a mask from each murder spree. So, to them, it wasn't about like, well, we're going to leave Richie's mask here and then Amber's there and then Charlie's and then Jill. It was just like leaving one mask from each murder spree. And what we figured out was that 7 of the 9 masks are accounted for. Okay. So you think about it, you've got a mask from Scream 5 is left behind at the opening scene kill. That's 1. You've got the Scream 4 mask left behind at the bodega scene. That's 2. The next mask left behind at the crime scene was Roman's. That's 3. Then you had Billy's mask is worn by one of the 3 killers. So there's 4. Quinn says she's wearing Stu's mask. There's 5. Ethan says he's wearing Mrs. Loomis's mask. There's 6. And then you have the white mask worn by Quinn on the train sequence. So that's 7. So 7 of 9 masks are definitely accounted for. So really, if you want to get technical and you go killer by killer, the only mask that's not really accounted for are Mickey's mask and one of Charlie or Jill's masks. One of those 2. And I know there's DNA found in each one. Like they're like, oh, this mask had Charlie and Jill's DNA. I just kind of chalk that up to like, yeah, there was still a mask for each killer, and maybe the killers did have their own masks, but obviously they were. It's not like Charlie and Jill were like, all right, this is my mask and only I wear it, and this is your mask. Obviously they were kind of just passed around during the killing sprees, which is why the DNA was found on both, the DNA from both were found on one mask. But yeah, like I said, we discussed that, and we believe that 7 of the 9 masks were accounted for. So I do believe that there were 9 masks total. The Drusif Stu's mask was indeed there with a question mark. Yes. Stu's mask was the mask that Quinn was wearing at the end during the unmasking, because she says, I have Stu's mask. He was my favorite. CJ, Mickey, Amber, and Jill's masks were not mentioned. Yes, that's correct. They did say that the Scream 5 mask left had Richie and Amber's DNA in it. They also said that the Scream 4 mask had Charlie and Jill's DNA in it, which was why I was saying I believe there's a separate mask for each killer from the shrine. But I believe that overall 7 masks are accounted for because I believe that the mask on the train sequence, because of how white it was definitely a Scream 5 mask, and it couldn't have been the one left at the scene because the police had that. So it had to have been a second mask from the Scream 5 killings, which would have been Amber or Richie's. So yeah, I think all the masks are accounted for, and the only ones that aren't accounted for and worn by the killers was Mickey's and a second mask from Scream 4. Apollo Balboa. Jason used his own mask. He had his own mask. He had his own little shrine in his closet. You know, he had like his little EU mask that he had on there, and then he had his 25th anniversary mask that didn't, have it wasn't reshrouded. Was that an HHN for Jason's mask, Rick? Is that what you're talking about? Jason's mask? Was it an HHN? I don't. So Greg's mask was, I believe, was a 25th anniversary mask, because it had the sparkle fabric. It had the 25th anniversary hood with the sparkle fabric on it. I love the Subway mask. Yeah, the Subway mask was awesome. The Subway mask reminded me of it almost looked identical to the opening scene mask in Scream 1. Or I'm Scream 1. Scream 5 in Scream 2022. The that opening scene mask looks almost identical to the mask that was worn in the subway. I'm wondering if it's the same one. I do know the filmmakers kept a couple of the hero masks for themselves. So I'm wondering if it was the exact same one. I really wish that we would have got some K&B love in that shrine somewhere. I'm sure that if the filmmakers even did want to do something like that, that the Fun World would have shut it down completely. So that's probably why they either just didn't want to do it or they wanted to, and Fun World was probably like, no, you can't have a K&B in there. Yeah, Iggy, I'm pretty sure that the Scream 5, the Subway mask is a reused mask from 5 for sure. Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird. CJ was a Roman ghost. No, honestly, nobody reached out to me at all regarding the shrine or anything in it. Nothing at all. I was kind of bummed, to be honest, because I definitely would have let them use the robe or even the mask. It would have been cool to have Roman's trophy. I mean, I have the only there was only one of those ever made, the headless trophy. I mean, that would have been perfect. That would have been a perfect prop in the shrine. I would have let them use that. Have you got your Ghostface popcorn bucket? No, but I ordered them when they put them online. I ordered 2 of them. Caleb Hall, do you still have the laid to rest knife? No, I sold the laid to rest knife and mask a while back. I actually never got that with the intention to keep it. It was kind of part of a trade. I do like the laid to rest movies, but I try to focus my collection on certain things right now. So I kind of accepted it as trade, knowing that my plan was to eventually get rid of it. Do I have a Hero Gen 1 as well? I don't anymore. I used to have a lot. I used to have quite a few Gen 1s from Scream 1. I wish I still had all that stuff. Life happens and you want other things. And yeah, I used to have some of those. I used to have some KMBs. The stained window mask looks similar. Scream 6 mask, Carl G. Yeah, this was just a mask that I painted using similar techniques to how they did it in the film. I was not able to talk directly with the artist that did them for the movie yet, but I was kind of explained like how the process was done and the types of masks that were used. Um, Basically, the weather masks were second run 25th anniversary masks that were reshrouded and painted by hand to look weathered. So this was my first attempt at kind of recreating one, and before the movie came out. I literally never painted a mask before, so it was my first try. This was even before we knew that there were multiple masks, multiple types of age masks in the movie. So I believe I was like kind of going off of like different screenshots of different masks, not even realizing it as I was painting it. But I'm happy with it for never having painted one before. I did the eye mesh, so it's all dark, you can see. But yeah, that's the one that I made. Put the Velcro on it. What does this say? Yeah, Funworld's releasing their own aged mask. I have not yet seen it. Not even like a prototype. I don't even think the prototype's done. But I know that Paramount did not. Funworld requested an actual like screen used mask to help them make like the mold for their version, and they didn't send them one. All they did was send them photos. So all they had to go off of was kind of what we had to go off of, which was just photos. So I'm not sure what it's going to look like. I'm not saying it's going to look bad. It's just a shame that Paramount didn't send them, one. Certainly they had versions that weren't even used. I'm sure they painted more than just 3 masks for the movie. So let's see. Where do you see Scream 7 going? I don't know. I didn't even know where I saw Scream 6 going. Even when they announced that it was going to be in New York City, I was still kind of like, what are they going to do with that? I think the going rumor right now though is that it's supposedly, again, total rumor. I have nothing to back this up, but from what I was hearing is that supposedly it was possibly going to Scream 7 was going to involve a true crime docu-series that is in production of all the Ghostface murders, and that kind of the effect that that's having on the core 4, and then killings start to happen again while this docu-series is in production. Again, I have no idea if that's accurate or not. That's just what I was hearing. Iggy, yeah. I think we all know. I mean, it's not going to look. It's not going to look anything like the masks in the movie. I mean, the masks in the movie are clearly painted by hand in great detail. I mean, to the point you can see the brushstrokes. I actually got a couple pictures recently that haven't been released yet of like extreme close-ups on set of the mask. You can see like every individual brushstroke. So yeah, and then they're like chipped. It's like you can tell like they would like paint like like this around the eyes, and then they would like sit there and chip the paint off with their fingers or something to make it look all like chipped and stuff. So yeah, there's definitely the Fun World masks aren't going to look anything like that. But I just feel like they would look better if they had a better reference to go off of, because obviously they were like in a rush to get, you know, these things out there as soon as possible. So yeah, all they were able to get was just photos, which were probably not even the greatest photos at the time because the movie wasn't even out yet. Dylan, yeah, Douglas looks his masks look amazing. I'm actually one for me. This was, to my knowledge, this isn't the exact brand, but it was this type of paint that they used to paint those masks. It was basically like mask paint, but I used the Mayberry Monsters. I used white, and I think this one's Fright White and Zombie Flesh combined. Those two colors I used. And then for some of the light green shade, I used Ghoul. Very little of that though. And then I used black and gray Dollar Rowney inks to do the cracks and stuff. So that was literally what I used. Like I said, I've never painted a mask before ever. But yeah, the main colors, Zombie Flesh and Fright White, when you combine those two, looks almost identical to the color that they used on the actual mask for Scream 6. So, do we have a physical media release date for Scream 6? No, but I believe it's supposed to hit digital at the end of April. I believe the end of April. It will be released on digital. So usually it's released on digital like 2 or 3 weeks before. So I would say May or June for a physical release date. Yeah, Iggy, that's what I said was perfect about that they used second run 25th anniversary mask for 6 for the age mask, because 95% of those were like had the dreaded blue dots on them anyways. So what better way to use those masks? I mean, they're already fucked up, so just paint them up, make them look cool. Reshrouding was the hardest part, in my opinion. Again, not having any idea how to paint a mask. I found that reshrouding it was the most difficult part. I did actually stitch it like all the way around there. So yeah, that was not easy. Even using a vinyl needle, which is really thick, it was still like it took a lot to push that through the mask each time. Did anyone else figure out the motives and killers early in the film? I didn't actually. I went into the movie convinced that Sam's therapist, number one, was going to have a bigger role than he actually did, and number two, that he was going to be the mastermind. And my theory was that Sam's therapist was going to be like obsessed with true crime, and we were going to find out that like the Ghostface shrine was his, and that whoever the other killers were that were helping him were patients of his that he was convincing to commit murder, and he truly believed that Sam was crazy, so he was trying to convince her to kill as well. That was my theory, which obviously right out the window 40 minutes into the movie when the therapist is stabbed in the face. I was like, okay, not only was he like literally only in the movie to die, but clearly not involved whatsoever. So yeah, from that moment, I had no idea. I did, however, on my first viewing, when Bailey kind of gives Kirby like a weird look and then is like, you know, get me all the information you can on her. I instantly in my head was like, we're not going to hear anything about this for the rest of the movie. And then at the ending, we're going to find out that Kirby's not really FBI. She's a liar. She's lying. So then I thought it was Kirby. And then when that happened, when Bailey makes that call and he's like, Kirby's been fired for 2 years or whatever, I was like, shit, I knew it. I knew it. But yeah, obviously that was wrong too. So yeah. I didn't suspect Ethan either. I really believed like, oh, this kid's he's too childlike. He's just they're trying to make you think that he's so childlike that he couldn't possibly be him because it's not him. And it was him. So definitely had me thinking. Yeah, definitely had me thinking it was Kirby. Mine, bro. I'm surprised they managed to make the movie without Sydney. I honestly don't see where Sydney would have even fit into this movie. I'm curious to find out what her role was in the original script. I do know for sure, without a doubt, that basically it was a cameo. Even smaller. She was didn't even have the role that Gail had, even though Gail was only in it, very little. Um, she was not involved in any Ghostface attack or chase. To my understanding, that Sydney's role was literally a cameo. So the story wasn't really greatly affected by her absence in that sense, as far as what the original script was. But yeah, I'm curious to know what that cameo was because I don't even know where that would have fit into the movie, to be honest. Yeah, I didn't miss her really either. It's kind of weird. Like, I've always been one to say, like, listen, give her happy ending. Like, at this point, like Richie said, to survive this many times is ridiculous. Like, at this point, if you bring her back, it would be to kill her. Like, and why would you want to do that? So, let her have her peace. I'm invested enough in the new characters in the core four, as they're now known, that I'm okay with it. Um, I don't need the legacy characters in the film or to be the focus of the films anymore. I think that Radio Silence has done a really good job at passing the torch to a new set of characters. Yeah, the way I'm glad she was mentioned for sure. Um, how could you have another set of killings after 5 and not mention Sydney? Do I think Patrick Dempsey would come back? I'm sure he would if he was asked. I don't see why he wouldn't. Tutorials about painting like an aged mask. I would love for there to be a tutorial too, because it probably wouldn't have taken me as long to do that one. I literally had no idea what I was doing. Um, Douglas at Drown Boy Productions gave me some tips, but I didn't have him like walk me through it word for word. He just kind of gave me some tips on like really more so what not to do. Like, don't do this or else you're gonna regret it. And I just kind of went with it. Um, did anybody else get the cups at their screening? I was actually surprised. Like, I didn't see a lot of people talking about the cups. That they were advertised prior to the movie coming out as being exclusive to Canada. And then all of a sudden, people show up at their screenings like I did. Thursday night, and boom, AMC theaters had the cups. I was shocked. I do have the tops. I just didn't open this one yet, but yeah, I got 2 of 3. My theater didn't have all 3, but really amazing fan and friend Skylar is hooking me up with a third one, so I will have all 3. Carl G, how come Fun World doesn't sell masks right from their website? I don't really know the full answer to that, but pretty much they just don't do that. They don't have like a online store. They're just not set up to be. They've never been that way. They're more of a distributor. Like, they sell products to stores. They don't sell direct. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think they should sell from a website. I think they should get that figured out eventually, but I wouldn't look for it happening anytime soon. Yeah, Nick Meese is in the chat, everybody. The original, the OG Nick Meese, arguably the oldest, and not old by age, but probably the oldest, the original OG of online Scream fans out there. Says again, the most accurate figures have been cup toppers for sure. Absolutely. Scream 6 soundtrack on CD or vinyl. No, but it's coming. I've seen it advertised and teased. It's the same company. I can't even think of their name right now. The same one that released the 5, the big box set for 1 through 4, and then the 5 soundtrack. It's the same company. Favorite kill in the movie? Mine, bro, 370X. Favorite kill in the movie? Probably. Whew. I would say my favorite kill in the movie was either Jason or Annika falling off the ladder and face smashing on the dumpster. I noticed there was a couple. Sorry, these chats are moving kind of fast. Caleb Hall, let me ask the controversial question that Scream community: is Stu dead? Yes, I fully 100% believe that Stu is dead. I've always believed that. I think it'd be silly to bring him back. I'm all for anybody that's not knocking anybody that has, they're big Stu fans and they got their high hopes that he'll come back. That's great. I personally don't think it will happen. I think he's dead. I don't think it should happen. I know they had fun with it in this one where they were like, Kirby's like, oh yeah, it's the TV that killed Stu Macher. And then he's like, well, that's if you believe he's dead. I know they had fun with that. But it also, if you look at the board, like the police, the board of all the previous ghost faces, it has like their picture and says the year they died. And it said right there, Stu's death date. Which again, I guess you could argue that too. But yeah, I think Stu's dead for sure. Chad's death was similar to Mickey's original death in the earlier draft of Scream 2. Are you talking about one of the like bait scripts that they put out there? Because I know Kevin has gone on record and said that a lot of these alternate versions of Scream 2 that are out there were never actually intended to be shot or made. They were just kind of put out there to throw people off. I don't remember all the details, but I do remember one where Mickey was like tied to a tree or something by the frat people that were trying to find Derek, by the frat guys, because he gave away his necklace. They were trying to find Derek, but they found Mickey instead, and they tied him to a tree on campus. And he was eventually like stabbed multiple times. And I think gutted on the tree. I can't remember. Caleb Hall, have you seen the film Sick? Kevin Williamson wrote it. Yeah, Sick was great. I actually saw the meme that's been going around where there's that Scream 6 poster that looks almost identical to the Scream or to the Sick poster. And somebody had pointed out like, like this was like kind of like a hint, a clue all along. Because if you think about it, well, I won't say that. There might be people in the chat who haven't seen Sick, so I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it. But for those who have seen it, uh, there's very striking similarity to the how do I want to say it without giving anything away? Sick and Scream Six's ending motives, so to speak, are very similar. Apollo Balboa, disappointed that motive was same as Scream 2, or was that the point? There was a part of me that was kind of like, as amazing as that movie was, it was like that's the best you can come up with is the exact same motive pretty much from Scream 2. But there's a part of me that does think that was intentional. That they were kind of trying to show like the parallel between what's happened to Sydney in the past and what's happening with Sam now. Nick Meese, yeah, 2 ghost faces with a double knife swipe, 26 years in the making. Yeah, that part was awesome. One of the only just trying to stay on topic here. One of the only issues I really had with the movie, and I said I would bring it up because somebody said towards the beginning of the chat that they felt like there was no stakes because nobody important died, nobody returning died. That was kind of my only problem with the movie, was that it had this massive body count, like 10 people, I think, which I think is tied for the most in any Scream film. And yeah, no, like 90% of the deaths in this movie were like bystanders, no name, not even characters, like the 3 of the 10 victims were just random people in the bodega. Gail's boyfriend was barely on screen and wasn't named. Like that's 4. Quinn's boyfriend was killed off screen and was just shown dead in the bathtub. Like that's 5. There's like half the killings right there were just random people, literally. Greg, we don't even get to meet him. He's just like decapitated and dead in the fridge. There's 6. There's more than half the killings in this movie were unnamed, or just bystanders, side characters, whatever you want to call them. So yeah, that was one of the only things that I had an issue with in the film. Yeah, Caleb, I think that they'll do the 7th one for sure. Yeah, yeah, Kevin, they're definitely going to keep it going for sure. I just hope we stick with the same team because it's been working so far. I don't want to see I would hate to see like a Scream 3 scenario happen where it's like, oh yeah, Matt and Tyler are back, but Guy and James are busy, so someone else is writing. I really don't want to see that happen. I really want to see them I think if that's at like risk of happening, I think the studio needs to wait and let them make it when they're all available to do it. Yeah, Iggy for sure. The box office alone, they're definitely going to do a 7. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Viewer Anon on Twitter, but he's an insider that is pretty dead on with what he says, and he's gone on record since this movie came out and said that it's his understanding that Guy and James are already like halfway done with the Scream 7 script. So Apollo, will there be stab films about Richie's story? I don't know. I feel like they're kind of getting away from that, which kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense. And I think they maybe set that up in this movie. You know, like I said earlier, the going rumor right now is that Scream 7 will involve a true crime docuseries about the Ghostface murders, and that will be in production when somebody else starts killing people as Ghostface. You know, they kind of set that up in 6, you know, when they talk about like, go, you wrote the book, and it's like, well, I couldn't make the movie because no one wants to make the movie now. It's all about true crime docuseries. So that was kind of already set up in this movie. It's kind of already set up in 6. So if that's the route they go in 7, I would say, yeah, no, there's not going to be a stab movie based on Richie's killings. If anything, it's going to be this true crime docuseries. Apollo, what happened to Stab the Musical? I honestly just think that was part of the poster. It was just something the artist came up with and they just went with. I don't think there was ever intended to be a Stab the Musical in the film or in the plot or in the universe at all. Same with like the other stuff on that poster. Like there was like news footage like on the poster that was like, 3 members of the Mackenzie family were killed tonight in a Halloween stabbing. I think it was just the artist was just kind of, coming up with stuff for his poster and they just passed it. What kind of material did they use to reshroud the mass? Asked Dylan. It's like a black polyester material. Pretty thick too, actually. Definitely not. They didn't do what they did for Scream 4. For Scream 4, they took those dwarf style shrouds off and then they took shrouds off of like EU masks and reshrouded them with those. And then in some cases, like how they have the tassels, they would stitch extra length to those so it could be tied even tighter. They did not do that in 5 or 6. They made their own shrouds out of their own material, which was just like I said, a really heavy like polyester material. Apollo, did you see Lee's Drum Dums documentary? I did not. I had a couple people tell me that I should watch it, but then I also had a couple people say, "Oh, you should watch it because he took like all of your footage from from your YouTube channel from the Still Screaming documentary and used it in his thing." Which I mean, whatever. But no, I did not. I did not get a chance to check that out yet. Uh, Yeah, when I reshrouded my aged mask, I just used a shroud off an ultra white and did it inside out. Not like, I should rephrase. It's not inside out, it's right side out. But I did it in a way that the tassels were inside the mask and not outside. That's why you can't see, because on the screen use mask, there's no tassels. So I didn't even want there to be like a mark where I cut it. So they were actually, I did it so that the tassels were inside the mask, and then I cut them off inside of there. So that's how I did that. Apollo, what is the official Scream 6 poster? I think it's that white poster, the cast poster with the city. Since you all scream so much, how do you feel about the scary movie films? Caleb Hall. I like the scary movie films. Well, I guess I should clarify. I like the first couple. I think like 1 through 3 I thought were pretty good. Didn't really care for any of the other ones after that, but definitely the first one's classic, hilarious, hilarious. Um, was Quinn being the killer roommate a callback to the original idea of Hallie being the killer in Scream 2? That's interesting. I've actually never thought of that. Apollo says, was Quinn being the killer roommate a callback to the original idea of Hallie being a killer in Scream 2? It could be, for sure. Yeah, that's interesting. I really didn't think of that. I wish Fun World would make the Killer Mash and Scary Movie. Jester, me too. I think at this point it's safe for them to do so because they don't make scary movies anymore, and I don't think there's any risk of it confusing general audience, general consumers, as far as like which one's like the Scream mask, which one's not. I don't think there's really much risk to that at all. So I think they should just go ahead and do it for sure. Kevin, you think they'll ever mention the TV show? I don't, honestly. I don't think they'll ever connect the two. Is there a stab poster green ghost face mask anywhere for sale? Not sure. It's a good question. Where's a good place to get official Scream masks? Pretty much anywhere. I mean, I feel like it's the easiest mask to find, just depending on which one you're looking for. You know, if you're looking for a specific type of ghost face mask, then it can be a little bit more difficult. But I feel like in general, you can get them almost anywhere now. Caleb, what other horror franchises do you enjoy? Friday the 13th for sure is a big one. The original Friday the 13th is the first horror movie I've ever seen. I was like 8 or 9 years old. So the original Friday the 13th is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And I just love camp slashers. I love Jason. I love any slasher that takes place in a camp setting. But yeah, Friday the 13th is definitely up there. I do enjoy the Halloween movies. I think that they're unique in that they have so many different timelines that you can follow, which I guess is kind of fun. But I do like Halloween. I'm not huge on Nightmare on Elm Street as a franchise. Um, I obviously love the original movie. I think it's like a masterpiece. I really like New Nightmare. Uh, and some of the ones in between they're fun, like they're fun in their own way. But to me, they were just kind of like I don't know, they just weren't very memorable for me. Like I've seen them all multiple times. And there are things that I like about some of the sequels. Like there's some stuff that I like about part two. Um, I like some of the stuff in part six just because it's so batshit crazy, like with Roseanne and Tom Arnold and stuff like that. But in general, I feel like the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise as a whole was the weakest, just because I just don't think the sequels really I don't know, they just weren't that memorable to me. That's just my opinion. Like I said, I love the first one. I love the last one. I actually thought the remake was okay. It wasn't terrible. Will we ever get a new Nightmare Scream where the cast of Scream films are being hunted? I don't know. I don't know. It would make sense. If they were to remake New Nightmare, they might as well make it in the Scream universe instead of the Freddy, franchise. So has anyone seen the movie more than once so far? Iggy saw it twice. I saw it twice as well. I've seen a couple people have seen it like 4 times already. Dylan 2 times. Apollo's seen it once. Nick Meese twice, of course. Come on, Nick, you got to get out there a third time. So do I. Caleb Hall, did you screen the TV series? I enjoyed it, but found it strange the entire case was randomly changed for season 3. Yeah, I don't talk about the show a lot. People don't usually ask me about it for whatever reason. I actually thought season 1 and season 2 were decent. I thought for what they were, which was a Scream TV show in name only, like literally, like they didn't try to fool anybody. They're just like, hey, this is nothing to do with the movies. We're just taking the name, which was kind of the way that horror TV shows were for a long time. Friday the 13th, the series was not connected to the movies at all. It was just an in name only show. And same with the Freddy's Nightmares. It really didn't have many connections with the movie at all. It was like Tales from the Crypt with Freddy Krueger being the one telling the stories. Yeah, I think for what it was, which was taking a slasher film, which is normally like 80 minutes, 90 minutes, 2 hours, I guess, if it's Scream, and stretching it out to a TV series. I thought it was pretty well done for seasons 1 and 2. And then obviously the Halloween special that kind of like finished that off. Thought was pretty well done. And yeah, season 3 was a disaster. That's the best way I can describe it. It was just a complete disaster. I actually watched the first episode of season 3. It came out when we were filming the first batch of interviews for the Paranormal Activity documentary in California. So we had just interviewed Oren Pelly, Katie Featherston, and Mika Sloat. And I was staying at Anthony's house, Anthony Massey's house. It was like the day after the interviews that was premiering season 3, and Ghostface is back. And we actually invited quite a few people over to watch it. We actually had Anthony Torres, big time Scream collector came over and watched it, and we had Jolie Nordstrom over, who was Courtney Cox's stunt double for the original Scream. And I'm like literally sitting on a couch in Anthony's living room, like Anthony Torres is on one side and Courtney Cox's stunt double from Screams on the other, and we're just watching this like, oh my god, this is so bad. Like, what exactly was the motive of Charlie? Talking about Charlie from Scream 4? Apollo says, what exactly was the motive of Charlie? If you're talking about Charlie from Scream 4, I think his motive was just that I think his motive was that he wanted to be with Jill, so he was doing whatever she wanted. But I also think that he was part of the same kind of concept that she had, that they were now going to be the famous ones for having survived the new Woodsboro murders. Kevin, do you collect the 4K steelbooks? Yeah, I guess you could say that. I don't really like steelbooks. Just because most of my collection was always regular, slipcover, whatever. And by the time steelbooks were like kind of like a thing, I was like, I'm not gonna go rebuy all these just to get steelbooks. But of course, when Scream comes out in steelbook form, I try to get that as well. Do I buy into the theory that Angelina was the second killer in Scream 3? No, I don't. There's so much, like, there were so many versions of Scream 3 that could have been, would have been, should have been, whatever. I just think we just have to go with what we got. I mean, until we're told otherwise, which I don't believe we ever will, but until we're proven or shown or told otherwise, no, it was just Roman, and that's it. And until they make a Scream movie where they're like, "Hey, surprise, it's Scream 10, and guess what? The killer's Angelina, and she didn't actually die. She actually helped Roman and was helping all along." Like, until that happens, then no, I don't think so at all. Do you collect all the variations of physical media of Scream? Yeah, I have a lot of VHS. I try to get all those. I have a lot of like the like foreign VHS releases and stuff like that. Different covers, different things. I like to get the screener VHSs like that they used to send to video stores. Yeah, I've never gotten rid of any of my Scream physical media. Most movies, when I upgrade, like when you go from DVD to Blu-ray, you get rid of the DVD and you go to Blu-ray to 4K. If you have that, you get rid of the Blu-ray. I don't do that with Scream, so I just keep everything. So I have a tote somewhere that has like all these VHSs and DVDs and box sets and whatever collectors, just different versions of Scream on physical media. Any Scream box set coming in the future? It could happen. I mean, it would in order for there to be a complete box set, they would have to get the rights to 4, which they do not have. Paramount only has the rights to 1, 2, and 3, and then 5 and 6. Obviously, they actually had to license the character of Judy for Scream 5 and also Kirby for Scream 6 because Paramount only owns Scream 1, 2, and 3 and 5 and 6. They don't own 4. 4 is still owned by 4 was a Weinstein Company thing. It wasn't Dimension. I know the Dimension logo appears in it, but it's owned by the Weinstein Company, which obviously that's just a mess and probably will be for all of time. So yeah, there could be no like complete series box set right now unless Paramount's able to get the rights to 4. But it could happen eventually. Yeah, the Jay and Silent Bob movies are stuck. Yeah, yep. Yeah, the Weinsteins, yeah, they have Dogma too. Like I saw something where Kevin Williamson was saying that Dogma, like apparently like the Dogma DVD is like ultra rare now because it hasn't been like re-released on anything and it's not streaming on anything because the Weinsteins own it, they won't give it up. Does anyone find the drawings at the shrine out of place? Who drew them and how did they know the way Dewey died? It can't be Richie, right? I wondered the same thing about the drawings. I don't know if they were supposed to be like crime scene drawings that like police did or something. I don't know. I also noticed in the movie that when they're in the shrine, somebody says, who did these drawings? What are these drawings? Like, they never really answer that question. Not Scream related. Have you seen both the Dead Snow movies? I know I've seen the first one. I don't know that I've seen the second one. Jester, Caleb Hall. Did you see Laid to Rest too? Yeah, I did. I did. I like Laid to Rest too a lot. I wish that we would have got a third movie. We think Richie's film was playing during Act 3 as a bonus material. That would be cool. That would be really cool if we got Richie's film as a bonus on the Blu-ray. It was probably like the Killers and Scream 6 that drew the drawings. Yeah, I guess that's possible too. Do you think Danny could be a future hidden Ghostface in 7? I don't see why not. I was glad he wasn't a killer in this one because I liked his character so much. Not that I would have no longer liked him if he ended up being a killer, but I just liked his character a lot in this. I thought he was exactly what he should have been. I'll say. What's up? Come in.
Yep.
I'm live. We're live.
All right.
Channing's here, everybody.
Hello.
You just got back from seeing Scream 6 again, didn't you?
Yep. And I saw the Ace 9 Kills Easter egg.
Did you?
Yep.
Good. Did your mom like it?
Mhm.
Nice.
She thought the beginning was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. How cool the opening scene was. Considering how popular Stab is in this universe, anyone could have made the drawings similar to what Stab does in the TV show. Yeah. Would you like that Tara? I hope we finally see Sam's mother in Scream 7. Yeah, there's got to be a reason they keep holding out on the mother, especially considering she was in the original script for 5. She appeared in that in the bar. So, yeah, there's got to be a reason they're holding out, showing her for some reason. I wish they would have followed through with Kirby being a killer. Yeah, I really thought that's what was going to happen for sure. They definitely fooled me. What was the point of killing Stu's nephew and mentioning his sister? I think they were just kind of trying to come up with some sort of pattern to have in Scream 5, like saying, that the killer's attacking people that are related to the original killers. I think they were just trying to come up with some sort of pattern. It's interesting. All of the Scream films, the sequels, anyways, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they all have this like pattern that the killer is following that they pick up on almost at the same point in all the movies, and they bring it up, and then it never happens again. It's never mentioned again. It's never followed again. It's never brought up again. It ends up not being important. In Scream 2, it was like, oh, all the victims have names that are similar to victims from Scream 1. After they talk about it, never happens again, never's brought up again. Scream 3, it was, oh, they're killing them in the order they died in the script, and, who's next? And then it's never mentioned or brought up again. Scream 4, it was that the killings were mimicking the original killings. Same thing. It was brought up, never happened again. Scream 5, oh, they're attacking only people that are related to the original killers. Then after they mention it in the movie, it stops happening and it's never brought up again. So I like that in Scream 6, there was this whole thing of leaving masks at each scene. And that was whatever the pattern was, that they were counting down to something. I like that it actually followed through and it's explained at the end of the movie. It's like the first time they had something like this in a Scream movie and they didn't ditch it like halfway through the movie. Who's your favorite Ghostface killer? I think my favorite would probably favorite of all time. Would say it would be between Billy or Mickey. Billy because he's the OG, and he just pulled that off so perfectly, as him playing the killer. Mickey because he had no connection to Woodsboro whatsoever. He just wanted, to have a trial and be like a famous serial killer. That was it. He just wanted to be known as a serial killer. So I thought that was really, really interesting and different.
My favorite Ghostface killer is Billy Loomis.
Of course. How about your favorite killer in 6?
Ooh.
Since you just saw it again.
I have to go with the cop because he wasn't even on my suspect list the first time that we watched it.
Same.
Like I never would have thought that it was the cop.
Why did Mrs. Loomis videotape the victims? Nothing really came of that. Yeah, I think it was Mickey that was supposed to be videotaping them. Because he's even seen earlier in the film during the press conference with his little video camera that he has with him everywhere. But yeah, I think that was just kind of, you're right. It never really went anywhere. Just kind of their way of being like, oh, the killer's watching and relishing every minute. So he's filming his own, I think it would have been cooler if he was filming the murders like in 4, but they didn't even really, that was another thing that kind of got like pushed to the side. It was kind of like mentioned, but that was it. I think they're going to release an 8th Scream movie, probably eventually.
I mean, when they say it's the final chapter, they always make another one.
Mm-hmm.
Or 2 or 3, possibly 4.
It's hard to pick a favorite since they're all different and stand out in their own aspects. Agree. All right, guys. Anything else we want to ask before I hop off here? We've been going about an hour and a half now, and it's time for the finale of The Last of Us. So I'm excited to check that out. But I thank everybody for being on here. But I really want to do this more often for sure. This was awesome. This was so fun. You guys were great. Nick Meese, realistically, Jill and Charlie were never going to get away with their spree. Yeah, for sure. Yep. I agree with that 100%. Caleb Hall, in my opinion, Scream has reached its peak in terms of suspense. I'm ready for more. Me too. Apollo, did you ever notice that H2O has Scream 2 playing? This makes no sense considering Halloween exists in Scream. Yes. Yeah, I have noticed that. Yeah. He'll work on the film in some capacity. Not Scream 6, because it was filmed in Canada and they pretty much had to get like an entirely Canadian crew. So the wardrobe, props, everybody was different on this one. It was all like people from Canada. Who would you want to be the killer in Scream 7? I don't know. I think I need to know a little bit more first. I need to know what the plot of the movie is. If it does turn out to be true that the true crime docuseries turns out to be true, could be interesting. They could do a lot of interesting things with that. John Carpenter versus Wes Craven. Who you got? Wes, of course. He's the master of horror. I'd rather have a new killer than a returning character being the killer, honestly. Yeah, I could see that. But really, if you think about it, that's the one thing that Scream has never done yet. They haven't had a surviving character be a killer in a sequel. That hasn't ever happened yet. So that would be a first, and these guys seem to be all about doing like firsts and subverting expectations. And that's something that Scream's never done. We've never had a surviving character return in a sequel to be the killer.
Or a character that's survived that we thought to be dead that survived and came back to be the killer.
Yeah. We've had that happen in the movie, but not from movie to movie. If the writer ever pulled a move like making a Ghostface killer an actual ghost, I'd be very upset with it. Yeah, me too. I don't think they'll ever do that. All right, guys. Anything else? Anything else? Speak now, forever hold your peace. I promise you I'm going to do more of these. This was awesome. I'll probably do another one this week, and I'll schedule it sooner. Like I said, this was kind of I just kind of wanted to do my first live and see how it worked and see how it went. And yeah, I definitely plan on doing more of these. So what's my favorite opening kill from Hawk? I would say Scream 2, Phil in the bathroom. I just love that kill for some reason. I just thought it was cool. It was such a cool kill. I still remember seeing it opening night in the theater and that happening and me being like, well, I'm not going to the bathroom during this movie. Like, holy crap, that was crazy. Yeah, I love that kill. I love the shot of Ghostface coming out of the stall and waiting for the other ghost faces to go. Last thing I'll add is I really like Billy's appearance in the 5th and 6th film. Me too. With them flirting with the idea of Stu possibly surviving in Scream 6, do you think he'll return for 7? I really don't think they're going to do that. Tagged or untagged masks? I don't know. What are we talking about? Thanks, Jester. Had fun too. All right, guys. Well, we're going to hop off here. thanks again, everybody. You guys were awesome. This was awesome. This was so much fun. Definitely going to do this again this week. Like I said, I'm definitely going to schedule it sooner. Like I said, this was kind of a last minute. Like I just wanted to jump on and get a feel for it so I can do them more often. So yeah, thanks everybody. Caleb, thanks for all the questions. You guys were awesome. Everybody was awesome on this stream. We'll see you guys on the next one. We'll pick a really cool topic and get on and we'll just talk Scream. We'll just talk about what we love. So, all right, guys. Thanks again. Thank you, Kevin, Caleb, Evan, Jester, Iggy, Hawk, Nick Meese, Apollo, Hot Dog 1337. Thanks, guys. This was awesome. Thanks, Thomas. I'll see you guys on the next one. Keep an eye out for it. Have a good night, guys.